supporters, welcome back to my channel. Former Teen Mom 2 star Kailyn Lowry has officially confirmed what we already knew, which is that she welcomed a fifth child, a son, a couple of months ago. But what we didn't know was how the birthing story went. And according to Kail, it was quite difficult because he unfortunately was rushed to the NICU shortly after he was born. She only got to hug him for a couple of seconds before he was rushed over there. So she opened up about this on her Barely Famous podcast while she was talking about her birthing story with Joe. She was talking about how with Joe, when they had Isaac and everything, he felt like it completely changed his perspective of her and their relationship. They had already broken up by the time she was giving birth, and he had been like playing out the field with other women and whatnot. But after she gave birth, he was crying. He was really touched by the moment, and he decided that he wanted to get engaged to her. So he proposed. I think they were engaged. She doesn't really say they were engaged, but she just says that she decided to ultimately call off the relationship afterwards. But alas. So she was talking about how the various other baby daddies hadn't really cried when she gave birth. And that was something that really upset her in the case of Elijah particularly. So why don't we take a listen to it? I've got it right here on my phone. Let's take a listen to it together, and I will pause as appropriate. Okay, you guys, let's go.
Called it off and wanted to move on after that, but then I have not addressed the rumors about my fifth son, and so I can do that now and just say this is not where I was supposed to bring it up, Kristen. But I asked Elijah because Elijah didn't cry when I gave birth to Rio, and that was really upsetting to me. But now that I think about it, I don't remember if Javi cried or not, and I don't remember if Chris cried or not.
Do you think it's just like the processing? Like that must be just like a shocking.
Actually, I know Chris didn't cry. I know for a fact Chris didn't cry. Javi is very emotional, so I feel like Javi probably did. But I remember being upset that Elijah didn't cry because Elijah is such a mellow, like calm, cool, and collected person. It takes a lot to bring him out of character, and I've only seen him out of character one time. But I asked him recently about it because I was like, I went home from the episode with the dude dads, and I was like, well, Tom and Jerry are like real, like they're dudes, and they cried, and they were talking about this experience and Elijah's take on it, and I would love to do an episode with him on this sometime after this one airs. I asked him, I was like, what was wrong with you that you didn't cry? And he was like, just because of how traumatizing our son's birth was, he said that because we didn't have time with him when he came out of my kitty cat, that he had to go right to the NICU. I mean, I literally got to hold him for maybe 3 seconds before they took him to the NICU. He said that and I was so upset. Like, Kristen, when I tell you that I was beside myself, like, could not.
Natalie.
Yeah, like, it was so scary. See, I have pictures of all the nurses in the hospital room at the time. And if I counted them, just hands on Rio was probably like 6 of them.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so when I asked him the other day, he was like, you were freaking out and we didn't have time with him. So I didn't have a chance to cry and process my son being born because you were so upset. So he basically was,
we're not both going to freak out now. I'm going to be the strong one while you freak out.
Yes. And that's the second time I've asked him. I'm about to cry. That was the second time I asked him. And he didn't really give me an answer the first time. And I was just kind of like, all right, I'm not going to like pick a fight because you didn't cry about your son being born, right? Like, I'm not going to pick a fight about it. So I asked him again just because this conversation came up. So that's when I finally got an answer, and I was like, oh, like,
you didn't realize the toll on him.
Because I've never been the outside one. I've never been the one, I've always been the one giving birth.
Yeah. So
I've never been on the other side of it where he probably did not get a chance to process, okay, my son is born before everything, it happened so fast. And, that's, Rio's whole birth experience could be a conversation of for another day, another episode.
I would love for when you guys get to a comfortable place, because I know it was traumatic and all that, and Elijah likes to be super private. You have privacy. So I know that's, a conversation that would have to happen with you guys first. But I would love to be able to hear, like, Rio's birth story from both of you.
Yeah, because I'm like, he almost died. And Elijah's like, no, Kail, he went to the NICU. And to me, I'm like, that's near death. Like,
right.
To me, I'm like, right. It was traumatizing for me. But for him, he was just like, he went to the NICU, he came out. So, yeah, so we could definitely talk about it, I think. And I had told you before we even recorded this episode that I wanted to do an episode with Elijah soon. So hopefully we'd have to get a babysitter or he'd have to take off of work, but we could.
All right, so there you go, you guys. The birthing story. Mind you, we're going to get into something else really quickly soon now, and that is how Kail says that MTV, when they found out that she was pregnant yet again, they tried to reach out to her to have her film about this pregnancy for Teen Mom 2, and she was initially toying around with the idea of doing it. She had talked to Elijah about it. He seemed down, the children, but then they wanted her to shoot this exclusively for Teen Mom 2 while dangling the carrot of a potential solo show for her down the line if this happened. And so she didn't like the way that they were dangling that in her face. And so ultimately she decided to walk away from the deal. That's something that she's going to get into now though. But listen, she talks about the birth and how difficult it was. Like, we don't get any details as in regards to that. We will get details in an upcoming podcast episode or a video project that she's working on. I think she's going to try to revive her YouTube channel. She kind of stopped posting to it. So she mentions wanting to do a 2-part series in regards to this. And when I feel like it's a web thing, because when Kristen asks when it's coming out, she says she's not sure. And then they both say that it's going to come out whenever Kail feels like it's ready. That typically means that you are launching it on your own. Like, when it comes to something with a network, it doesn't work that way. Like, they decide on an air date and everything like that. So alas, that's the story there. But let's get into part 2 now, you guys, where she talks about how MTV wanted her back for the show in exchange for, they wanted her back on the show with the potential of having her own show in exchange for filming about this pregnancy.
Get it done.
I definitely think that could be a cool perspective, only because, like you said, you've never been the outside person, and you never really hear from the outside person.
Right.
Realistically, you hear about birth trauma coming from the person giving birth. You don't really hear about the toll of that trauma.
The person watching, the partner, the other parent, the support person.
I think that could, one, just bring a lot of awareness to the situation, and also like probably help a lot of, I'm going to say dads here because typically they're the ones on the outside, but like moms, dads, whoever is that second person, I think that could help them, because I would think, looking from the outside, they probably feel invalid because they weren't the ones giving birth to even feel traumatized.
Right, which is not the case. Like, you definitely can watch and experience and be super traumatized, which is crazy because Lux wanted to come to the birth so bad because he was there for Creed's, and he wanted to come so bad, and he was home, but also I wasn't supposed to give birth that day either, so we didn't know I was going to give birth that day, and I'm glad that he wasn't there because he could have also been traumatized from that experience.
Oh, I'm sure. And like having just like that many people have to like come in, and then obviously the baby was with you, like Rio was with you, so it's like then he might think something's wrong with you. It's like that. Super thankful that he wasn't there for that. I will say, I just want to like touch on, you mentioned like, the rumors and whatever. I just want to say, you are entitled to talk about whatever you want on whatever timeline you want. I think what people need to understand also is there is another party involved in this who never signed up for a television show, didn't sign up for anything that maybe other people have previously signed up for. And
I learned my lesson with Chris, like,
right, and you're like, you have to be respectful of Elijah's opinion and wants and whatever. So
but also let it just be known now that it's never been true that he wasn't allowing me to post anything. It's just that after my experience with Chris, knowing that Chris didn't want to be public about anything, and then I got mad at him, I outed who the dad was, that made him a public situation. Also, I just want to make this abundantly clear for everyone who's listening. This was not to betray my followers and supporters. And that being said, every single time I have almost announced on my own, literally within the last year, I have not been able to because it's been taken away from me. So when you guys are commenting.
So there you go, you guys. Just another little Easter egg there. She talks about how she always wanted to announce this on her own. Within the last year, that opportunity kept getting taken away. Year. So pretty much everything that Chris said was true. The name, Elijah Rio, we don't know if Rio is his real first name or if it's the second name or if it's a hyphenated first name, but the Rio part is definitely true. The fact that there was a baby, the birth being in November, like everything is lining up here. Okay, so she's just going to continue. I'm going to let this play while I go close my laundry room door so you don't hear my laundry going.
And speculating, and you think that you're one-upping me by comment. This is to the haters, the trolls, commenting, oh, how's your sweetest new baby? How's baby Rio? How's your fifth son? You're not you think that you're telling me something I don't know, or you're breaking, like, you think you're doing something and you're not. You're just irritating me, because every single time I've wanted to announce this by myself on my own terms, that has been taken away from me. So with every time there was a picture leaked, with every single time there was a rumor started, Chris, with every single time there has been something said, I had pushed back or
did you hear how she says that? Every time there's a rumor started, Chris. So obviously Chris started the rumor when he said, and listen, that part was true too. And I think that I don't want to gloss over it. Chris put this out there because according to him, Kale, who had already been arrested in the past for allegedly getting physical with him, was trying to get physical with him again, allegedly, of course. So don't forget, sorry guys, that is the thing that launched all of this. Kale, who we had seen on camera getting physical with past exes, who had caught a charge for allegedly getting physical with Chris, was allegedly trying to get physical with Chris again.
Paused or postponed my own, storytelling, my own fucking announcement. And it would just irritate, like, it's just not fair. Like, I already got my karma tenfold for what I did to Chris when he was about to have his third son. I already got that. So I don't know why. So I just want it to be known that it was never meant to be a betrayal towards my listeners, my followers, my podcast supporters. It was never meant to be that. I just got a KiwiCo crate at my door yesterday.
There you go, guys.
Believes that every kid is
she did not want to betray you guys, her fansies, by hiding this pregnancy. It was just that she felt like she wanted to be able to announce it on her own terms, which, listen, I get it at a certain point, but after a year, girl, talk about main character energy. Is it really that serious that you need to hide, deny for about a year? Personally, I don't think so, but we all have different thresholds for these things, I guess.
Everyone in my personal life knows about Rio, and they're all very aware. This was not a Teen Mom 2 meetings and things to get my own show. And
okay, so I'm skipping past the fact that everyone in her life knew about Rio. Obviously, look how she was walking around. It was very obvious she was pregnant. Here we go.
To having to give all this information to Teen Mom 2, out and just say all of it. There was a show in the works. There was. And when I was essentially bamboozled into having to give all this information to Teen Mom 2 in order to go forward with my own show, I pulled back and said, never mind. I'm not giving this to Teen Mom 2 in order to get my own show. This is my own show. And so because I saw a comment the other day that was like,
yeah, that's been speculated that, like, oh, maybe you're in contract for your own show because, you had mentioned having meetings and things like that. But ultimately you decided, like, between you and Elijah, like, and your kids, you all decided collectively that, you left the show for reasons, not to go back or to be dangled like a carrot.
Basically what happened was, like, if you give us this, we'll give you your own show. Like, give us this to Teen Mom 2. And that's when I was like, no.
Yeah.
So that was that. So yes, there was a show in the works. Ultimately, we pulled the plug. Myself, Elijah, and my children pulled the plug, and we're like, we're not offering any of this to Teen Mom. This is only for XYZ. I'm also very much still under contract until February, or whatever fucking day. I don't even know what month I'm still under contract to. So I also want to put that out there. And so that's where we're at.
Yeah. And do you want to say that you already filmed something?
Yes. So members of the Kitty Gang know, because I did send them like a screenshot of like a little teaser where I was like in glam, mainly because I look good. You guys know I don't really post on my stuff anymore because I'm so fat. I'm so bloated. I filmed a two-part situation for...
Girl, that is not what's troubling you right now, being bloated. It's being pregnant, but here we go. I just, I feel like, why not take this opportunity to launch the new news as well? Like, are you going to have to wait another year, hide and duck, dip and duck and whatever, dodge to announce your other kid? Like, why not take this opportunity now? Instead of pretending again. Like, really, she's saying that she doesn't post to her social media right now because she's fat and bloated. Girl, you're pregnant. Stop, anyway, let's continue.
Explaining myself, explaining the pregnancies, explaining all of the rumors.
See, there she goes, right? Like, it's a direct contradiction. first she's claiming that she's something she's not at this moment, like, or sorry, denying the pregnancy. And then second, she goes, okay, well, I'm launching this series. It's a 2-parter, and I will be addressing everything. I will be explaining the pregnancies. That means plural, not the pregnancy, but the pregnancies, which means the one that I just posted there pictured is going to be brought up at the very least. So I don't think that she's going to be ducking and diving for another year. Well, thankfully for herself, because that sounds like a lot more trouble than it's worth, to be quite honest with you guys. But alas, you guys, listen, like I said at the top, it was shocking to hear her finally confirm this. I wonder if she's trying to get this to slip under the radar with all the drama that Janelle's got going on right now, or what. I want to know though, you guys, how do you feel about this news? Like, do you care that much now, or have we moved on to other news at this point? Because this used to be the ultimate story. Like, this was something you guys were like devouring like crazy up until about August. Then it got old. It's like, all right, like, we're over it, on to the next. And now she's coming out to confirm what we already knew. I personally, I'm happy for her that she can finally like acknowledge this child publicly, because it was getting super duper weird the way that he was being hidden and denied for so long. It just felt off, especially with all the other kids being so public, to the point where she runs public Instagram accounts for them and whatnot. And then this one just kind of being hidden in the shadows. It didn't feel copacetic to me. And it feels to me like, in listening to her in this episode, that she feels like relief, a weight lifted over her shoulders. So if she feels that way, all the more power to her. Of course, I will be standing by for the 2-parter that she's about to be dropping, with more information about her pregnancies and whatnot. And like perhaps even more behind the scenes tea about what it was like filming those things for MTV. It feels like they left her with a bad taste in her mouth. She feels duped by them or whatever. So we'll see how hard she's going to go. Maybe we'll get more information about what she's planning to do once that contract ends. Will she actually have real projects in the works, or will she be like Janelle Evans? Remember, Janelle had this huge countdown and everything, talking about Amazon, Netflix are after me. And all these years later, she has nothing, right? So we'll see how all of that eventually plays out. And I do want to know how you guys feel about Teen Mom 2 trying to pursue her for adding a new baby and a new baby daddy to the mix. Does this really does this coincide with being anti, you know what I mean, irresponsible pregnancies or not? Like, you know, these people that are always like, what birth control are you using? Oh, yeah, look how like all these unexpected pregnancies, unplanned or whatever, can like really bring a lot of trouble to your life, or trying to advocate against it. Does this seem like in alignment with that, or does this seem like a completely different thing? Make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.